Grand Rising Spiritual Junkies, and welcome back to my podcast, Healers Talk. And today we're going to be talking about respecting my boundaries. Yes, it is an issue that so many of us have, but very few of us actually know how to deal with it. So I'm going to take you through a couple of step-by-step process of how to build your boundaries and maintain them, as well as really get into what boundaries are. So, without further ado, guys, let's jump into it. So, firstly, what are boundaries? Boundaries are limits that we set for ourselves and others. Everyone's boundaries are going to be different, and this is based off of their total life's experience. Boundaries are based on what matters to us personally. So, this is why boundaries are going to look different on everyone, because what matters to me may not matter to you or may not matter as much to you. So, all of our boundaries are going to be different. And boundaries can also be applied to many areas of life, such as work, family and friends, relationships, and even conflicts. But I also believe it's important to note that boundaries can also be applied to our thinking and our mindsets, which is very important. But we'll talk more about that later. When applying boundaries to different areas of life, like work, you're going to be applying boundaries to when your employers or your employees can contact you about work. So, a lot of people struggle with their employers contacting them after they have left work during the weekend, during a day that they're off, and they may feel obliged to answer and to help them solve problems or to come in to work and work extra shifts because the company is short staffed. But this is a boundary that so many of us have failed to really establish because we feel like, okay, well, money. We got to go get the money, got to go get the bag. Got bills to pay, we got this, we got that. So we are working around money instead of building and establishing the boundary for when we are going to work and when we're not going to deal with it, and being okay with that, knowing that our survival is not based off of work, but it's based off of our connection with the divine, because the divine provides all. Divine provides the job that provides the money, right? The money doesn't come from the job. So once you start changing your mindset about things, you're able to change your boundaries. And the same thing would apply to family and friends and relationships. You have to have a cap on how much you're willing to give of yourself. I always say, and you're going to hear this in just about every video, just about every podcast, just about every post, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you have to make sure that you have all that you need in order to be of service to anyone else. And again, so many of us struggle with setting boundaries with family because family is family. You know, a lot of us have been taught that family comes above any and everything else. So even if you're tired, you still got to run that one family member to the store. Even if you don't have it yourself, you still have to help that family member get on their feet. So applying boundaries in those aspects of life can actually be the difference between you feeling full and you being depleted. When establishing boundaries around conflicts and confrontation, you just have to know when to walk away. You have to know when to pull your energy back from the situation at hand, whether it is a disgruntled employee or customer. I'm sorry, employer or customer, or whether it's an angry family member or somebody you getting into it at the gas station, whether you were about to pull at a pump and somebody stole it. You just have to know when to walk away. It's not about ego here, right? Because ego makes us feel like we have to have the final say. We have to win this argument. We have to win this debate, this battle, this conflict, this confrontation. But you have to check your ego and realize, you know what, this isn't worth it. You have to really ask yourself, is this worth the risk? Is this risk worth the reward? And then a lot of times during conflict, it's not. So you just have to know when to walk away, and that's establishing boundaries that protects your peace of mind and your quality of life. From those examples, you can pretty much gather that boundaries can be both physical and emotional. You can physically distance yourself from someone that is causing you turmoil. You can emotionally pull back your energy in a situation that is causing you turmoil. So, boundaries work on many, many different levels. Now that we've established what boundaries are and the different areas they can be applied to in life, let's talk about how to build healthy boundaries and what healthy boundaries look like. A healthy boundary can look like valuing your own opinion over that of others. And I know a lot of us have been in that situation where we're all putting our opinions out there, and someone else may kind of overlook your opinion, so you just go along with whatever they say. But standing your ground is definitely a boundary, and that doesn't mean that you have to go with your idea, but you can stand up for it. You can, hey, okay, well, I heard what you said, but how about we try this, you know? Or even, for my natural girls, if you decide to lock up your hair and others tell you, oh, well, your hair looks perfect the way it is, I don't think locks will look good on you, or whatever the case may be, like I've heard it too. You couldn't value your opinion about yourself over the opinion of others. Healthy boundaries also look like respecting your limits and the limits of others. If you know there's something that you're just not willing to do, for example, myself, I will not drive in the rain at night. I already can't see. I will not put myself in danger or the safety of anyone else on the road or in my car because, you need a ride somewhere or I need to pick up something. It doesn't matter. I'm valuing my own limits. And when you're valuing the limits of others, just accept no. If anyone tells you no, that's what it is. And you respect that. Healthy boundaries can also look like not compromising on your values or your beliefs. Don't let people sway you from what you truly believe. Now, it's another thing for someone to offer you new information which you didn't know before, and that kind of makes you reevaluate your beliefs. But whatever you believe in, whatever you value most in life is what you value, and that's okay. And it doesn't need to be changed based off of what somebody else may believe or value. This is a huge one that a lot of people lack, and it goes back to childhood wounds. So I always encourage childhood healing, but this is communicating needs and wants, right? So often we get caught up in our own minds thinking about what somebody is able to do, what they're not able to do, what they have the money to do, what they have the energy to do, that we make decisions for others. But whenever establishing your boundaries, you have to ask and you have to vocalize what it is you want or what it is you need, especially from others. This is a big one in relationships. Whenever you're in a 10-year marriage, like myself and my husband, at first it was hard for me to communicate what I wanted from him because I was making all the decisions for him based off of what I knew. But that wasn't everything. I was on the outside looking into him, not knowing, okay, if I ask him for this, he will be happy to provide it. But I got caught up in my own head and I didn't want to voice my needs or my wants. So I didn't have. And then that created resentment. I resented him for not doing the things that I didn't tell him to do. To sum up, healthy boundaries allow for accountability, respect, and open communication. Accountability because you yourself are accountable for your own boundaries and whether you establish them, how you maintain them, and how you communicate them to others. You cannot be mad that someone didn't do something that you didn't tell them to do. You cannot be upset that you are driving in the rain at 10:30 at night to take someone to work or to pick someone up from work whenever you didn't voice your boundaries, when you didn't tell someone, hey, I can't do this. Hey, I'm not going to do this. Hey, I don't feel like doing this. That is your responsibility. And it is also your responsibility to make sure that your boundaries are respected and to respect others. And as always, open communication. This I think is the bottom line for boundaries. You have to communicate. You have to communicate whether you're going to work on your day off. You have to communicate whenever you're not in the mood to do something. You have to communicate your feelings and emotions whenever in conflicts, or you have to be responsible enough to just walk away from it. So the big question is, well, Shayna, where do I begin setting boundaries? How do I begin setting, maintaining, or establishing boundaries? And I'm always going to say start small. Just say no. That is the best place for you to start building your boundaries. It's whenever someone asks you to do something that goes against your values, goes against your beliefs, or something that you physically do not want to do, just say no. And saying no may seem minuscule, but if you really think about it, how many times have you ended up in a situation you didn't want to be in because you couldn't say no? Hmm? Exactly. I know you guys are like, well, I can think of a few. Me too, because I didn't have the nerve to say no. And a lot of times it's with family for me because I have a soft spot for family. So knowing my soft spot for family and my trouble, my inability to really say no to them, I just remove myself completely. So I live in Alabama where most of my family is in North Carolina because I know how I can allow my family to drain me. And that's not saying anything negative about them. It's me because I have to be accountable for how I feel and how I let others make me feel. So, saying no will also help to build confidence and sharing your thoughts, your emotions, your displeasures, and anything else you've kept in fear of upsetting others. Whoa, somebody. How many times have you not said something? How many times have you not um, maintained your boundary because you didn't want to upset someone else? I am here to tell you the people who get upset about you maintaining your boundaries or you establishing your boundaries, they were never there for you to begin with. They were only there because of what you could provide for them. Which brings up my next point. Boundaries feel like betrayal. To the ones closest, nearest, and dearest to us, boundaries feel like betrayal. Boundaries feel like you are setting yourself up against them. But again, the people who really love you and value you are not going to be upset, at least not for long, whenever you start establishing your boundaries because they want what's best for you too. When you begin setting boundaries, you want to identify acceptable behaviors from others. You also want to clearly communicate your boundaries. You have to tell people what's acceptable to you and what's not. Again, people people don't read minds. You have to communicate these things. You also have to identify what causes you discomfort. Decide what to do if boundaries are not respected. I mean, because it's one thing to say, hey, I have boundaries in this area of my life and this is what it is. But if somebody doesn't respect those boundaries, then what? Because just because you have the boundary doesn't mean that people are going to respect it. So, what are you going to do to make sure that your boundaries are not crossed? So, I want to give you guys a few examples or things that you can say to set your boundaries, especially if you're just starting out. Like, if you're like, I don't know, my mom. My mom has no problem setting boundaries. And that just came from a life experience of people pleasing. And she learned herself and she learned what was valuable to her, and that was her peace. So anything that started disturbing her peace, she just say flat out say no. She has no problem saying it. I don't care. An old woman, a baby, she doesn't care. So if we're not on her level yet, here are just some things that you can say. I wish I could, but I'm not available right now. I can't commit to that right now. I've made up my mind. I don't care to discuss this matter. I have nothing planned, but that doesn't mean I'm available. I need space and time to think this through. I'm not able to take on additional work right now. Please do not comment on my whatever. Now you have to excuse me because I think I read that with a little bit of attitude. But if you take away the tude and you just listen to the words, then you are clearly communicating your boundaries. You are clearly saying what it is you are not going to do, what you don't feel like doing, what you're unable to do. You're clearly communicating that your mind is not going to be changed. We don't have to discuss this matter any longer. Like, it is what it is in a respectful manner. Okay? And before I go, I wanted to go back and talk about boundaries with ourselves and our thinking. Okay, and this is really for those of us who struggle with a lack mindset or a mindset of scarcity, where we don't believe that there's enough to go around for everyone. We don't believe that we are able to get this. You know, we don't think we're good enough. We don't think we're deserving enough. We don't think that we have enough education, or whatever the case may be. We believe that we lack. And setting boundaries around this mindset will help you to really change the way you think. And once you start changing the way you think, you start changing the way you view things. And once that changes, then your environment is going to start changing. Okay? So once we start having these thoughts, and they're going to come, especially if we've been thinking this way for the past 20, 30, 40 years, those thoughts are going to come. But as soon as they arise, you have to stop yourself and you have to counterattack with a positive affirmation. Okay? Like, man, I don't have enough money to pay all these bills. But you can counter that with the positive affirmation, like, I have everything that I need. All that I need will be provided for, right? Once you start changing the way you think, then everything outside of that will begin to change. And if I'm being quite honest, we are our worst critics. We are our worst enemy, right? Because we are always showing up and being supportive for others. But when it comes to us, we're down talking ourselves. We're belittling ourselves. So we need to change that behavior, and changing that behavior starts with establishing boundaries. Okay? So that was just a little tidbit, a little gem. For you to take with you and begin changing your life for the better, guys. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. I didn't want to go over 20 minutes, and I think I'm doing pretty good. So I just wanted to run through a few quick updates with you guys, and that is simply check out my Etsy shop where we have oils, candles, baths. I'm going to be also putting up some ritual sets. I think it's going to be really good for around the winter solstice. So y'all be looking out for that, and also have just a lot of fun goodies coming to my Etsy. So be sure that y'all are checking that out. And if you are a lover of art, make sure you go over to my website, emboldenarts.com. That's EMBOLDENARTS.com. Check out what canvas paintings I have available. I'm also going to be posting some more around September 1st. So those will be available for you guys. And you can also check out what I have at my on my Instagram. And that's going to be Art by Shay. So again, thank you guys for tuning in to Healers Talk Podcast when we're talking about respect my boundaries. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the next episode when we're going to be talking about the art of release. And that one that I'm excited about, because this recently just had an Aquarius full moon. And it seems like a lot of people are purging. So I just wanted to let people know the art of releasing, why it's so good, why it's so beneficial, and how we can do it. Okay? So that's all for today, folks. I'll talk to y'all again real soon. Love you. Mwah. Bye.